And a lot of players who will be there obviously want to try and make sure that they're part of a successful side that's being built by Michael Beale. And how many players come in, who knows, we'll wait and see. He did say 12 the other week there, but Todd Cantwell certainly thinks there will be a real hunger to try and contest all three major domestic trophies. And of course, let's not forget, Rangers in the Champions League qualifiers.
You know, in terms of recruitment and that as a player, it's kind of irrelevant because, you know, you've got a group of players in pre-season which are all fighting to be in the starting 11, and you know, at the start of next season we've got everything to play for again. So you know, the hunger in the dressing room is going to be real, and you know, whoever comes in, whoever leaves, I think whoever's there playing for Rangers, it's important to know that you're fighting for your spot and fighting to win every game.
Well, I've been impressed with him, Ruffy. I like him as a player. I've
been impressed with him against the other teams in the league. I think he's very, very good. He's not done anything for me against Celtic, you know, and that's the best team we've got in our league. So he's not really grabbed that kind of game by the scruff of the net. And the scruff of the net. You know, picked up that, did.
Yeah, I did.
He did. Just let it go. But no, he has got a lot of ability. But I've noticed when he's playing against the Aberdeens and the Hibs and the Hearts, he is playing in a more advanced player position. He's getting into goal scoring opportunity, and he's looked really, really good. Yeah. You know, and sometimes some players come for England, take a wee while to settle. He hasn't taken a wee while, but he's not done a Hattati for me yet. He's not done, you know, something at that level.
I thought he was the best player in the semi-final for Rangers.
Well, I think you can tell that he's done well, and that he's become a bit of a fan's favourite. The very fact that he was put up for that chat with the media there, you know, because quite frankly, Rangers fans have heard it all before about, you know, we'll be better next year, all that kind. There's going to be silverware coming our way, you know, and they would actually, instead of folk talking, you know, they would like to see it come to fruition with a bit of action on the pitch, and it's a very, very strange time for Rangers. If they're talking about, you know, there's 9 players they've got out of contract, you know, so you're starting to think it's almost going to look like a new team next season. And you're thinking, right, okay, if you're a positive thinker and you're a Rangers fan, you're thinking, then it's hopefully 9 guys that are going to come in who are better than 8 guys. But what if they're not? Because there's already that gulf between Celtic and Rangers this season. Of that, there is no doubt. So I wasn't surprised to see it was Cantwell that came up, but all that stuff about we'll bounce back next week, we won't play that badly again. You hear it, you know, after every defeat, whether it is Celtic or Rangers, and in recent seasons, of course, it's mainly been Rangers that have been suffering the defeats between the two of them. We're sick fed up. We know how it works in the media, you know. All these promises, you know, that we'll be better next year.
Players coming out and saying we got the manager the sack.
Exactly.
I'm sure that Stephen Hamill, as soon as it came out afterwards, I'm thinking,
well, exactly.
Oh, his piece, you know, that's the type of thing that happens.
I mean, that is one of the points.
He's laughing because he knows that's what players do, isn't it?
That is one of the points about in front of die-hard Motherwell fans at the Player of the Year event. I can assure you that's one of the points I'll be putting to Mr. Van Veen as we celebrate his 25 goals and the great run of form that he's been on. And I will be asking him, you know, what happened then during that period with Stevie Hamill.
Yeah.
Well, it's a similar thing for me. When you look at Aberdeen, you lose to Darvel, and now you're third, top of the table, quite hard to beat, and you fancy your chances winning every game. What changed? What's different? It's the same players, more or less.
Yeah, sometimes it's...
Incidentally, that was almost like the last game Darvel won. Darvel have apparently just imploded since then.
I know, but sometimes, and well, listen, quite a lot of times, there are managers. I give you Neil Warnock. You know, they were gone, and he's got something out of them. Whether there's enough time for Sam Allardyce to get something out of them, I give you, you know, Barry Robson at Aberdeen, Jim Goodwin. Something happens when you get a set of players who just respond to you, or you know, maybe the crux of it is you've got a good coach in there who's doing things differently and organising them better.
Yeah, if you get a good coach in there and you're enjoying the training, winning games makes it a lot easier. You know, if you're winning games, I mean, because when you hear, you know, when there's trouble in the camp and it's a new manager getting in, you hear players saying, oh, he's got his training double. He's got his, and on a Sunday now he's doing this and he's doing that. Yeah. A lot of players don't like that kind of thing, you know, but see if you start winning games, you buy into anything that's thrown in front of you.
See, this is where there's a different mentality. So, like European teams, for example, double sessions every day.
Yeah.
Not even a question about it. Players don't complain and moan. if you did that in Scotland, I've got to pick kids up at 3 from school.
Yeah.
Or got to go to the bookies. It is different. It's a different mentality.
Yeah.
And it's hard for managers to come here and try and change things.
Yeah, well, at least they don't have to go to the bookies now. But
none of them bet now.
if somebody said to me, by the way, you're in for 2 sessions and you're on $600 grand a week, I'm like, I think I'll stay for another session.
Exactly.
Listen,
It's going to be fascinating next year. See, you think about next season, you know, the Celtic, will that still be the same kind of Celtic team with very comings or goings? Then this transitional period, as we say at Rangers, and then you're watching what can Aberdeen do when they get the full close season under Barry Robson, when Alan Burrows is really bedded into the club. It's just, I think it'll be, you can't wait already.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, this summer there's not going to be any World Cup or European Championship to keep us going.
I actually think Aberdeen have got a chance. You know, where you're
doing what?
Improving next year, because if they've got a nucleus of good players and they keep them and you add 2 or 3 extra, they could improve again.
I would love them to improve, but I have to tell you right now, and I've got it in the neck for it, and well, it's just another the nature of this show. The teams out with Celtic and Rangers, obviously Rangers we know have to improve as well, but out with that they've got to get better, and I'm not talking about closing the overall gap in Celtic, which everybody wants them to do. We want to see a better league. But the performances to even get into Europe, Ruffy, are absolutely woeful. And people are talking about, our standards getting better. No, it's not. You only have to look at the evidence. Something needs to change in the mindset of some of the clubs.
Well, the proof in the pudding is when they all go into Europe and they all get knocked out in the first prelim. You know, they haven't done anything for the last 4 or 5 years. They haven't. Longer than that. Well, Hearts had the wee run, and they were on a high at that particular time, but everybody else has failed. I mean, getting beat against teams from Malta and the likes, you know. So, yeah, you would like to see them all improving and getting better. But as we're sitting here talking, Rangers and Celtic are going to get better. So, what do they have to do
I know.
to close that gap?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Somewhere along the line, I'm watching it. We've got an SFA coach in here in Tam. Somewhere along the line, somebody is going to have to readdress the situation with Scottish players again, because it's going the same way. There's very few Scottish players kicking a ball in the top flight. You know, it's changing again. It's going back to, I mean, yours was a slightly different set of circumstances because Rangers were throwing money, you know, willy-nilly all over the place, and you're a Scottish player in that side hoping that you're going to get a game in the team, and then he goes and signs a world-class player. The other aspect of it is some Rangers players were able to get a game because there was a 3 foreigner rule, but somewhere along the line you're looking at saying, okay, we know we can't hold on to good Scottish players because they're cherry-picked to England, but there needs to be some others that are given an opportunity rather than the situation where Motherwell dumped out. I mentioned the Swiss team last week to you, and you took a little bit of umbrage on it. The reason why I mentioned that Hearts should have beaten FC Zurich is because Zurich weren't that great a side. Hearts should have beaten them over the 2 legs. I watched it. They blew it, you know?
Yeah, no, listen, it was in a kind of cup tie atmosphere. You would expect Hearts to win that game. I agree with you in that score, but I read somewhere recently, and I suppose there's this element to it as well, that a lot of the young Scottish players that haven't made the first team are taken away from the clubs at that point. So the 2 Celtic ones going to Bayern, and some from Dundee United going down south, and they
goes to Liverpool.
They don't even reach the first team level before they're taken away. So sometimes, unfortunately, the Scottish teams can lose some of their jewels way too early. And maybe that's got an impact on the level of the players in the team.
And the flip side of what you're saying as well, Peter, and I think Motherwell now is a great example of this. You know, Stuart Kettlewell, I'm sure it'd be great if we could get some of the young boys coming through, and Motherwell certainly are the worst.
No, exactly. I agree.
Of course, right? But Stuart Kettlewell will be thinking as well, this guy scored 25 goals for us that we're going to lose. He was plucked for the lower reaches of English football. We were sitting talking about him at the game on Saturday, and boys were about, you ended up looking up your phone to see exactly where he had come from. He was, you know, it was yet another one of these guys that had come. I think it was was it Scunthorpe, maybe? Yeah, right. And nobody knew about this guy. He sounded the part. It was almost like the Jean-Claude Van Damme, you know, great name, Kevin Van Veen. He sounded like a winner. He sounded like a pin-up player. The fans absolutely love him, and he get 25 goals this season. So right away, you know, who would be a manager? Because you're thinking, right, am I going to bring, there's apparently a kid there coming through, he was in the academy and all that, and I think I could give him a chance. But here's a boy that a scout tipped me off about doing at Colchester, and he says he could be another Van Veen. Who are you going to go with?
Well, the other big problem that Tam McManus has mentioned is that there's apparently in that Hibs youth policy some really good players that played against Dortmund, you know, I think it's under 18, under 19 level, and will they get a shout, Ruffy? Will the Hibs fans be sitting there saying, and you know what it's like, some managers have been sacked after 7 games, one after 19 games, you know, and if you can't turn it around quickly, you're going to look and say, I'm not playing a Scottish player.
Yeah, the other thing I'd be interested in seeing the Premier League, which team in the Premier League has got the most Scottish players in the first team. I don't know who it is, but if you have a think about it, I don't know which team it would be. You know, just looking through all the teams who have got all the foreign players.
That's one for the viewers. There's always one at home that has got that info at hand.
We did at the start of the season because it was something I was paying particular attention to, and Motherwell were up there with a good 4 or 5 at the time.
Yeah, at the time.
You know, and it's dropped off.
I do think though, I mean, if you're being smart about it as well, more often than not, bigger clubs are looking for new talent, 16, 17, 18, maybe even 19. So if clubs like Motherwell have got a good player who's 17, 18, they put him in the team and he plays games and he does fine, interest generates, and you know, the times to sell, you know, you've only got a window of opportunity maybe until they're 19, 20, and it kind of drops off a wee bit.
It would appear the note for Motherwell, certainly that's Max Johnston, you know, who has really caught the eye. A player that's been reared by Motherwell, and
he'll be off in the
somebody.
summer.
Well, again, it seems to be there's a different club every week, hugely interested in him. But again, that is the model. At Motherwell, ideally, I think it was under it was either Stuart McCall or the Craig Brown, or perhaps both era. But the kind of word apparently for the board to the manager at the time was, we're looking for you to sell one player per year, somebody we will get big dough for, you know. And didn't always happen, certainly didn't always happen under the Stevie Robinson era, but obviously David Turnbull was one we would still get stacks of that money in the bank. That was superb, but you need to be looking at more and more of that, and fans accept that, you know. I mean, even when you think of a blip like this season for Motherwell, we did think we were going to get down. You know, I think if you've got half a brain, you'll think, well, you know what, we you know, these things happen in Scottish football. We were saved twice, thanks to Brockville, and then thanks to league reconstruction. You know, some of it was our turn to get down this year. But I think fans are realistic, and the good thing is as well, I think young guys, if it is young guys we're forced to play, if Van Veen does go, which he will, and we chuck in a guy who's been scoring a few goals for the reserves, then at least at Motherwell I do think he'll get a chance.
Yeah, well, let's hope so, and let's hope we see a lot more Scottish players getting a chance across the board in the Scottish Premiership. Interestingly enough, we mentioned there about Rangers and Celtic playing at the weekend. Neil, Rangers have got a couple of qualifiers to get over to get into the group stages of the Champions League, and news out today gives you an insight into what Celtic could be facing. They're one of 8 clubs already guaranteed Champions League group stage football, as our reporter Kerry Pollock found out.
Celtic clinched their second title in a row under Ange Postecoglou on Sunday, which means they are guaranteed at least 6 games in the Champions League group stages. As well as the Scottish champions, 7 other teams have qualified for group stage football, including Serie A champions Napoli, Premier League leaders Manchester City and challengers Arsenal, German giants Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund, along with Barcelona and Serbian side Red Star Belgrade. Ange Postecoglou's side will likely fall into pot 4, where they will come up against some of Europe's elite. Last season, Celtic's group consisted of Real Madrid, RB Leipzig and Shakhtar Donetsk. Meanwhile, Rangers could find themselves in pot 3. However, they'd have to compete in 2 rounds of qualifiers, as they did last season, beating both USG and PSV. For Celtic to advance to pot 3, they'll be hoping that more than a few big hitters exit the competition in the qualifying rounds. This year's Champions League draw will take place on the 31st of August, with fixtures running from September to December. After last season's campaign, Celtic earned around 25.6 million, a sum that would increase the more points that are earned. Which of Europe's top sides would you like to see make the journey to Celtic Park?
Yeah, pot 4. Not exactly great going. It's 3 hard hitters, more than likely, Ruffy.
Yeah, but I think Celtic are bought into, just enjoy it. Enjoy the teams, enjoy the visit, and enjoy the different countries you're going to go to. And if the football comes to the top, then you do get a chance to be second in fair dues. But I don't think the Celtic supporters put the Celtic team under any pressure at all. There wasn't any big drop out for the poor group that they had.
Yeah.
So any improvement in that would be a bonus.
The one thing that's a key in any competition, it's points and prizes, and points usually mean money. The title is done now. The Scottish Cup's the only thing to play for.